Time for
DodgerHeads.
high fly ball into right field. Dodgers have won it all in 2020. Shohei Ohtani, 50-50 club. Strikes him out. There's a drive. Shohei Ohtani. Freeman hits the ball. She is gone. Birthday party, Los Angeles. Your Dodgers have won the World Series.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads Unplugged with Scotty G. It's great to have you in here. Happy Friday. Happy December 5th. It's good to have you in. Just enjoying the kind of the uptick and some of these rumors coming out, some stuff just breaking as we speak. Nothing crazy, just some chatter from Ken Rosenthal. Had a chance to listen to Robert Murray this morning on his own show. So I've got a couple notes that we'll kind of touch on throughout this show here. But it's great to have you in. Fake news clickbait. No, nothing there. Yeah, I had no handle in the headline there, but nothing on the Dodgers front as of this moment, but stuff that does impact and can potentially impact the Dodgers. What I'm focusing on today is just a few topics that definitely have some depth to the conversation. But it's good to have everybody in here. We'll touch on a few things. If you have any chatter that you want to toss in chat during, after the fact, please let me know. To the tier ones, it's good to have you in here. Happy Friday. But definitely, thank you for avoiding your work obligations, joining me on your lunch hour there. Ants, thank you for joining in. Empire, what's up, man? Matty Man, JY, everybody, it's good to have you. Foxy, Amanda, how we doing? So, a couple things of note. I'm keeping tabs. I'm currently keeping tabs on, the chatter surrounding the Dodgers and how they year after year find a way, whether it's one year or the next, to be opportunistic when it comes to free agency. And when the moment strikes, seemingly they're on the periphery looking to do a deal. If they've got something, kind of squared up, if they have the groundwork for something and they can make it work, then they will. But I've long said for the past, since Raisel Iglesias was signed, that the Dodgers offering him a very competitive one-year offer and him choosing to go back to the Atlanta Braves really said a lot about what the Dodgers are currently thinking with their bullpen. And I would say that that's not the overwhelming thought of mine that they're only looking for the 1 year. I would say that's their number one preference. They don't want to wind up in another scenario, or their preferred option is not to wind up in a thing where they have Tanner Scott on a high AAV deal and they add another back-end bullpen guy on the same thing. The Kyle Tucker market as well. We've got a few stories at DodgerBlue.com, Blake Williams, Matt Moreno, all the boys there, Sebastian, Matt Borelli, they all put out, amazing work for us here. The Dodgers appear, or what the early chatter is, they appear to be out on Kyle Tucker and Edwin Díaz for a few of reasons, obvious ones. The cost demand in the initial stages. And right now on the reliever market, this isn't the initial stages. I would say where the current market is with the top-end relievers, we're getting into where Edwin Díaz is holding out for someone, if it's the New York Mets, the rumor has it that they still have flexibility on their end to bring him back even after handing Devin Williams, a very sizable contract for what he is, that I think it was 3 for $58. So with Devin Williams getting that, I would say I agree with the current chatter that the Dodgers are unwilling to meet the demands of what Edwin Díaz wants, which is, he initially was looking to match that 5-year, around $100 million deal that he had with the New York Mets when he signed that a few years ago. So right now, Edwin Díaz entering his age 32 season, he's expected to sign a contract 3 to 4 years per Fangraphs, around 21 to 25 million here. So that's a contract demand that, one, do the Dodgers want to lock themselves into that? it's not something that I think they prefer. I don't think they've ever had it. I don't think this is one where if it falls into their lap that there's nobody else, the Dodgers would again sign on for a 5-year deal. It's just not something I think they're going to do, even if it's there. For where their current roster's at and the financial flexibility, that's a word that it's not something the Dodgers have to really keep check on, but it's about reckless spending. And that would get themselves into a spot where, do they really want to do it? That's where you have that Andrew Friedman restraint. That's how you find yourself in good spots where you don't hand out that extra deal, right? So with that, where Edwin Díaz's market is currently at, I kind of co-sign, not that I know anything, but making sense of where the current buzz is with Edwin Díaz and how the dominoes have kind of fallen here. I said prior that I would have loved to bring Ryan Helsley in on the 1-1. From what we know, the Dodgers didn't go so deep in on that. Devin Williams is someone that there was mutual interest there. They just, the Mets found a good contract length, good AAV for him, and were able to, nab Devin Williams on a 3-year commitment there. So the Dodgers, with their current reliever market, and what you see is still left out there, the Robert Suarez, Kenley Jansen, Pete Fairbanks, some other names out there. It's a deeper conversation to have about what they're going to be willing to do for that 9th inning. And is their pursuit of that back end guy still at their, top of the list? I don't think so. I think right now they're going to find out if they can get who that is. I know there was some buzz about Robert Suarez. Jeff and Anthony touched on it last night. There are some things about Robert Suarez that I will get into a little bit later on. I didn't have it on the docket, but I'm going to bring that up. But also with the Kyle Tucker news, we all, I think in chat, you all agree as well. Welcome in. If you weren't there for the first few minutes, it's really good to have you. The contract that Kyle Tucker seemingly will command here, with him on the free agent market, it was reported that he was at the the Toronto Blue Jays facility in Florida yesterday. I think that's a lot about nothing, just formality stuff here, and just doing his due diligence. The Toronto Blue Jays seem like they are hell-bent, rightfully so. It's good to see a team that has the resources go out there and appear that they're going to do whatever it takes. The Blue Jays are motivated early this offseason, kind of set the tone and get ahead of everybody else. But with what the Dodgers are currently at, the quote here from, Fabian Ardaya and Katie Wu of The Athletic, it says, Kyle Tucker still looms as the best available free agent, but the factors that made him an unlikely Dodgers target are still in play and will be, barring a sudden crash in Tucker's market. So those things are all possible things. Now, those are all possibilities. And I think the early reports that the Dodgers are looking for that short-term high AAV deal is something that is a real possibility. But the initial, thought of demands of a long-term, 8 to 10 year commitment for Kyle Tucker is definitely not something that's in the cards for them. It's not something that, a few years ago, I would say about a year and a half ago, when I touched on that, I had, knowledge of initial stuff on the Dodgers side, where they're currently at with the core and then the young guys on the horizon here and the age of the roster, to lock themselves into another 10-year commitment wouldn't be wise. If they're able to get him on a shorter term, then by all means bring it in. But with these reports right now, I would say that's why there's not a lot of smoke from the Dodgers camp about Kyle Tucker. And I think it'll stay that way. So I would say from that, fans that were hoping that the Dodgers dipped in on Edwin Díaz, it's something that it was worth having a conversation about. Kyle Tucker, let's put a pin in it. Let's see how it plays out. And if it turns out like something like the Freddie Freeman route, different circumstances, but something that the market just doesn't turn out to be there. There's a snag in negotiations, and it's just not the offseason for him that he envisioned initially. Perhaps the Dodgers are waiting in the wings. But that would have a few things would have to happen, and the Dodgers won't be waiting around for something like that to happen. They have an outfield problem they need to fill. They perhaps have, they have multiple. They've got a bench they've got to figure out. They've got a left field, center field spot to figure out, right field, depending on how you want to handle Teoscar Hernandez and stuff like that. I did see that, TQT. Let me pull this banner down, and we'll touch on that just for a second. Just saw this. Ken Rosenthal reporting that the Minnesota Twins are not going to be selling. I think I had the full list. Yeah, Ken Rosenthal says Twins are not planning to trade Byron Buxton, Joe Ryan, or Pablo Lopez. So how much do we think that is the case? I would say, I'll give all the credit to Robert Murray this morning. Fantastic, writer, newsbreaker, just a terrific guy in the baseball, sphere. If you don't follow him, please do put the notifications on for him, just like you do us. Robert Murray said that there's not an overwhelming amount of motivation to get a deal done with Joe Ryan, shipping him somewhere else. But if the Twins do somehow trade Joe Ryan, perhaps that does tip the scales of what Byron Buxton thinks about a possible trade. So I would say with Ken Rosenthal putting that out there from Twins camp and what he's hearing on that end, I would say that a few dominoes would have to fall to get to Byron Buxton and what he would do to waive that no trade clause. So I think that it's definitely something of note. TQT, thank you for putting that up. Thank you for putting that in the comment section. It's definitely, another trade target that, like I said, a few dominoes would have to fall for that. And Matty Man touches on this right here. The outfield is concerned. They need a bat. They do. And that's why, for me, outfield has been the number one thing for me. It has been the number one sticking point. And then after that is the bench. And with the bullpen right behind that, it's why I'm not so gung-ho that the Dodgers didn't, nab Raisel Iglesias on the 1-year deal, which was really telling. Robert Suarez is still out there. Edwin Díaz, early, reports that they're not going to meet those demands there. That's something that I'm not getting too hung up on. There are some next level options that I can be sold on. I've said that Chris Martin is someone that let's talk later on in the offseason if you want to get a stable arm in there and then figure out the 9th inning later on with internal options. That's something that I definitely can see being the case as far as the bullpen, which is why it's the third level for me. I think they've got to figure out the outfield and then the bench going on there. Shelley says this, no, all the talk yesterday about trading Teoscar stressed me out. Well, have no fear. Have no fear. It's good to have you in. I'm not going to be talking about them being motivated to trade him. I'm going to be giving you the reasons why it's not a great time to do that. And Robert Murray also touched on that today. He said, quoting, like paraphrasing all this stuff here, he said the Dodgers are listening on Teoscar like all teams do with players, like all teams do. So a very, a thing that unless you are an untouchable, like he named, he goes like Shohei Ohtani, an absolute untouchable. He said, Teoscar is perfect for LA. He loves LA and he doesn't expect anything on that end. And then the final one, he goes, unless a Kyle Tucker becomes available and falls into their lap, there's a possible chance there's like some motivation to make that happen. But a few things would have to happen there. So my view on the Teoscar Hernandez chatter and being, somebody putting that out there is that my pushback against it and my unwillingness to think that it's a possibility. There is some merit to it. There is I understand the logic behind it. If you want to improve the defense, that's one other thing there. But with the current landscape of the outfield and the options on the free agent market, it's not something that I can see it. It's not something that I can see it. A few things would have to happen. You'd have to, one, you're trading away money, hoping that another team takes that on. Then you'd have to acquire somebody else for money and then get another one in a trade just to remedy all that. I get it. My big thing is that even in the down year, Teoscar Hernandez had 25 homers and I think 89 RBI in an absolute down year. And if that's the floor for Teoscar Hernandez in a down year while playing somewhat hurt, it's something that the Dodgers, I don't think there's enough motivation to get a deal done like that. If they had left field, right field figured out, however you want to slot Teoscar Hernandez, whatever you think is your preferred, whatever fits your narrative, I don't think it's the perfect time for it. If in 1 year, if they find a stable option in the corner outfield slot, center field, then we can have the conversation. I just don't think that it's the perfect time to have a deal like that get done. If a team wants to go out and say, we don't have that designated hitter option and they want to pay for it, pick up a lot of the salary, send stuff back, because it's not a salary dump. This is not a Jorge Soler type of scenario where it's just the deal is done. A team is motivated to bring in a reclamation guy, someone who's vastly underperforming, anyone. It's not a scenario like that. There's a lot of love for Teoscar Hernandez in the clubhouse, the organization, and that's where it's at. That's my current view on it. And that's how I think it's going to play out, unless a few things, click. I don't think something like that's very viable at this current time. TQT says, in a year, Teo might have cratered even more and the interest in Teo might evaporate. Teams want outfielders right now, hence the Teo interest. Sure. Teams are probably finding out what the Stephen Kwan, if there was talks about Buxton, Jarren Duran, Wiley Abreu, those costs for prospects are probably so high, and if the Dodgers would even perhaps listening into it. I found Blake Williams' burner. I figured it out. But yeah, that's the way that I see it at the moment. If they get overwhelmed with prospects coming back, then it's another conversation to be had. But they've got to be willing to improve on that position, improve on another one after that. People say if they want a three-peat, trading Teo needs to be made viable. I don't know. They did it with him. They repeated with him. This is a funny one. Every team right now is getting better that is competitive, minus the Dodgers right now. So this is coming from people thinking the Dodgers are just missing out on everybody. It's not as big of a market as people think. I would still say that they need to go out and trade for an outfielder, of course. I think that's the one area that they definitely need to go out and do. Drew, that's the area that I think they need to go ahead. But they're really going out, gauging the market. Yeah, Brendan Donovan's a real possibility. A ton of the league is looking at Brendan Donovan. The cost is probably going to be way higher than people think here. And the Dodgers will have to part ways with some prospects that people might not think. Let's see. I mean, BL, you want to talk about they repeated with pitching and some very lucky fielding, nothing else. Timely hitting. Some timely hitting. That's how it goes. Dodgers might not make it past the Philadelphia Phillies for that 3-run home run from Teoscar. It's just how it goes. Let's see. I'm good on Lars Nootbaar. I know people talk about that. I'm good on that. But the Teoscar Hernandez news, I just don't think the motivation is there for the Dodgers to do that on their own. It would have to come from external stuff. They'd have to be, you hear the term get wowed all the time in a trade. Yeah, BL, I got you, man. I know they need some bats. And I think that addition by subtraction is not a scenario where that comes from with Teoscar Hernandez. If you're saying they need bats, you're going to take away one of the, top right-handed bats in the game when he's right. And the floor of a guy who's going to hit you 25 homers and nearly driving 100. Defense aside. I understand that. Final Boss says, Scotty, you don't think the Dodgers they got a lot of bit lucky. That's ball, man. They got a lot of bit lucky. The ball getting stuck in the wall. Isaiah Connor Falefa not taking a big lead. Yeah, That's it. He says, you're not okay with just running it back right now. They've got to add. I've been saying this. They have to. Final boss, tune in earlier on, man. I'm on the same page with everybody. They're definitely doing it. They definitely need to add to the outfield. Blake, if you're going to talk about collective stuff here, that's your prerogative, man. And I understand that's your narrative, but that's not how it goes, because moments erase a lot. And we had this conversation off stream. If you want to come in here and do that, then you can hop on the thing, and I can just tell you that, postseason moments matter. If we want to have a conversation next year, in the offseason next year, about it, creating another hole to go out and do that again, it's just a lot of money shifting around. And I don't think there's a lot of motivation doing it. Yes, Teoscar's fielding is something that they definitely have to figure out this offseason. There has to be some remedy to it. Yeah. Cool. I mean, that's how it goes, man. DBL, you're going along the luck thing. Luck matters. Can't bank on it, but it's there. Matters. The whole offense almost eliminated them from the postseason, Blake. It's not just Teoscar Hernandez. The whole offense nearly did it. The whole offense nearly did it. Teoscar Hernandez had spots where he came through. So if you want to say those don't matter, then postseason hitters don't matter. And you're the person to say that postseason doesn't matter. Postseason moments don't matter. But they do. Let's talk questions. Put those in there, all caps question. They do need to get an outfield. They do need to get a left fielder. They do need to attack that immediately. They need to get a corner guy. If they want to get a center field, they need to get it via trade. Do they want to dip their pen back in the Cody Bellinger thing? If they do, they do. And then that is a big bump. That provides them with a defensive upgrade in center field, provides them with a security blanket post Freddie Freeman. But they definitely need to get a corner guy. You have to go out there and make a trade for it, which is why I expect them to go out and trade away some prospects of value to go bring somebody in to give them another stable floor. Final boss said, would I rather have Quan or Cody Bellinger? Cody Bellinger. I've already said that. I'm not a big believer in Steven Kwan. I'm not a big fan of what they're doing, or the smoke around Steven Kwan trading for a contact bat. I think you can find that a lot of different places. But with Cody Bellinger, I've bought into a lot of what he's done for the past few years. He's transformed himself back into a very quality player. I've been a fan of what he's done. He's a dynamic guy. People love Harrison Bader. Bader in center field, pause to right, figure out left field. People love Harrison Bader. Matty Man says, never been more sure of anything. Dodgers will get an impactful outfield bat. Yeah. Let's see. JY, do you think a player can improve his defensive capabilities, or is it a bit more of an innate talent? Say a little bit of both. Players go year to year on trends with defensive metrics and defensive stuff like that. Teoscar Hernandez was incredibly lackadaisical in the outfield, but I would say that the gap between his defensive miscues and what he provides offensively, is something that we can talk about further. But I think that defensive capabilities, you can bring those up to speed. You can figure those things out in an offseason. Whether it's mentality, whether it's effort, there's a lot that can go into it. VC says the idea that Cody will be able to replace Freeman when he'll be like 34 is comical. They're like 6 years apart, and Freddie playing until he's 40. Yeah, I mean, it's just an easy thing to talk. It's just an easy thing as far as like sliding him over to first base. If by that time, BC, that they're not in need of an outfielder and Cody Bellinger has lost a step or two, you could put him at 1. I think that's the easy conversation to have, BC. I wouldn't say it's as far as like overall production. It's more of just like the easy slot to first base. Yeah, Fox. He says, yeah, I know you're speaking to Teoscar. It's not something that you can count on, but it's definitely something he's done. When he messes up, he delivers on offense. I think that says more about what he can do in those spots. All right. Yeah, Dave says this. We have some top outfield prospects. I'll be ready in 27 going forward. No need to break the bank for outfielders just now, just a bridge type. That I've been on that. Just get someone that has, say, 2-3 years of arbitration stuff, cost controlled, and then you can go from there. If it pops into their lap and Cody Bellinger is able to, be had on, not such a long-term thing, then you can go ahead and do it. If it fits this core, this window. I saw something on Fangraphs, so credit to them for this, that Andrew Friedman in the front office, they're always operating, looking toward the future. Like they don't look at the organization as like a window. The window is always open, which I loved because they'll trade from depth, and then they'll continuously acquire prospects to expand that window, whether it's using those prospects acquired in other moves to bring proven players in. They continuously churn this stuff out and how it makes the engine all go. So Dave, I see both sides of this, and it just depends on getting the right player. BC says, look at Teo's postseason stats and compare them to Cody's. I haven't had that. I think both can be had. Like, if you're just looking for like a direct comparison, then it's worth a conversation. But I would say like both can be had. But that's if they want to do that. But I don't think that's their number one thing. I think looking at like the trade with guys who have arbitration years route is their ideal thing. Yeah, TQT says, that's what I've always said. Friedman is never short-sighted. He's win now with an eye toward the future. You can always adjust. You can always pivot. And that's why you don't empty the cupboard. So you have depth, but they're just always in an advantageous spot with their farm system here, which is great. Again, everybody, do me a favor, like, subscribe, notification bell, all the things for me. This is one I haven't seen at all. It says Mr. Tanner Scott is going to have more saves than anybody in baseball next year. Golly. Man. Somebody screenshot that one. Let's see. BL says, why didn't we offer Devin Williams 3 for 45? Aren't we going to pay close to that much for Suarez anyway and get a closer? I'm not certain about that, BL. Suarez is in an odd spot. He'll be 35 when the season, kicks off. Devin Williams might have just, look, you can get a little outside of your, framework when speaking to about Devin Williams. But it's a matter of there's a moment where if you're just saying you will not be outbid, it's a different conversation. Will not be outbid is something other than having, restraint. Like high-paying bullpen guys are like a luxury piece. You don't have to have that. And just because there was mutual interest there, you don't have to overpaying for a reliever when you already have one. We don't know what the Dodgers' final offer on Devin Williams was, but I know they ponied up for it. It just, the Mets offered a bigger thing. And when you're a reliever, you just take the best deal possible. I don't think they're going to go out there and then I don't think they're going to pay anybody like that. That's why when people bring up Edwin Díaz, it was just pipe dream. I don't think they were ever going to touch that type of money. No need to be doing that. Devin Williams, once it gets to a scale, you're like, all right, the market's flying for itself here. And Blake says this exactly, this is referring to like the bullpen. Yeah, they're going cheap this offseason. And they aren't getting an elite closer. That train has already left the station, I would say. And then David Vassay is jumping on, saying Kenley Jansen's, coming home. That big elite closer is still out there, big 74, right, Blake? But it's not something that we envision. I know Blake and I have had a lot of conversations about it. It's not something that we thought they would do. Suarez, if it happens, it's just going to be like if they could overpay him for one. But to the other reports about not meeting the cost of like Edwin Díaz and getting priced out of a bunch of them, Ryan Helsley, they didn't even want to do a 1-on-1. Rysel, they offer the one. I keep talking about that. The Rysel Iglesias 1-year deal for $16 million they offered him was said a ton about what their original plan was. And I'm sure they would have liked to just, checkbox that early on and say, good, we got a, back end guy for 1 year, $16 million with a solid track record. TQT, there we go, man. Chris Martin, baby. Bring it in. Bring him in. I said that a while ago and I got laughed off the show. That was crazy. What a bunch of slander. Let's wait a few months. Chris Martin's coming home. One of the most consistent relievers for almost a decade. Bring him in. Yeah, DV's Kenley. Yeah, his boys Kenley. Yeah, David Bassett and Kenley Jansen have a great relationship there. Let's see. BC says this interesting. He says they've never won the World Series without a superstar offseason signing. Mookie in 2020, Shohei Yamamoto in 24, and Blake Snell in 25. I mean, BC, let me know who qualifies under that. Are you going to say Kyle Tucker? Or are you going to say, big Cody Bellinger? BC, they were deservedly swept in 2023 because Lance Lynn was in the postseason and Blake Williams had to watch that live from the press box. Never forget. Let's see. People say Diaz or Williams would somehow forget how to pitch if they sign with the Dodgers. Yeah, maybe. But that's the volatility. That's the tightrope you walk with relievers, man. That's the tightrope you walk with relievers. You never know. That's why they wanted to stick to a 1 year. If it was just that, they'd be like, whatever. Bo Bichette. I don't think we've had a deep enough conversation about Bo Bichette. But he was scary. Yeah, BC says Tucker would, Bo Bichette would. We haven't had a big enough conversation about Bo Bichette. I think that you have to see what happens with Toronto and what they're going to do. I'm not sure. If they're going in, they're going in. Like if they're going in, they're going in. If they somehow land Kyle Tucker, are they also going to get Bo Bichette other way around? I think they would much prefer. Actually, I don't know who they would prefer. I don't know who they'd prefer. But Bo Bichette's bat, he showed a lot in the post, even while he was hurt. That was a scary thing. He had fun at bats to watch. As a pure baseball fan, seeing what he could do on stuff outside of the zone, seemingly waiting for that, he was fantastic. He was fun to watch. People ask about Emilio Pagan. Yeah, thank you, Shiva. He just signed a two-year deal with the Reds. Let's see. Final Boss says, any worries on Mookie next year? Is he declining or a 1 year outlier? I mean, he's getting up there in age. He just had, he was sick prior to the season. It's something to monitor into the offseason and how he looks in spring training. I would say definitely that. So it's a wait and see with Mookie Betts. Wait and see with Mookie. There was a question here. TQT says, thoughts on Josh Reddick still being a fool? I don't know why he has a platform to do this stuff. Like, I don't get that. I understand it drives views and stuff like that, but the dude's just proven himself time and time again to be an ass. We have a story on DodgerBlue.com right now talking about his comments on Josh Reddick's comments on Yoshinobu Yamamoto. And how he won't, I couldn't care less if Josh Reddick apologizes for his ridiculous tweet about Yamamoto and not paying him. But it's like, you're on that 2017 team, man. If you want to have a career in media and stuff like that, you're going to have to battle a lot of hell, but lame. Just lame. Dude's just a lame. If you're going to wear it, wear it. Josh Reddick has a podcast. Could have fooled me. Could have fooled me. Let's see. All right, I'll take a few more. And then we'll hop out of here. Let you guys enjoy your Friday. Barring anything breaking over the weekend. But yeah, toss in a few more questions there. All caps question. And I'll let you guys all get out of here. They're just in this mode, chat. They're just in this mode where they're just keeping a tab on it. Winter meetings coming up. The Dodgers, from what a lot of these big writers, are thinking, the Dodgers are in this wait and see mode. And I'm sure they have their hands in a lot of different deals right now. And if something lines up, if a team decides to go with that, then they will. But other than that, something's going to come out of nowhere. Chad, is there a move that would disappoint you on the trade market? That would disappoint you? Yeah, Matty Man, thank you. Is there one that would absolutely disappoint you? I think the one for me would be like if they trade for Stephen Kwan and it's a package that just pisses me off. And then after that, we find out that Brennan Donovan could be had for less. Jared Duran could be had for less, stuff like that. Trading Gavin Stone would disappoint you. Yeah. People saying Framber Valdez, they're not in the market for that. Foxy doesn't want Stephen Kwan. Trading Emmett Sheehan, that'd be big. That would be a tough, man. Trading Emmett Sheehan, that would be a pretty sizable deal. That would have to be pretty sizable. I don't know who's out there that I would trade Emmett Sheehan for right now. That's like on the trade market. Dave says spending too much for a free agent like Edwin Díaz and Kyle Tucker. Just depending. Kyle Tucker is the one that I'll wait and see. I'm never going to be like, oh no, a big time hitter. Oh no, but it has to be on the terms that matter or are worthy of that. Shorter term. I want it on Dodgers terms this time. But also Kyle Tucker, getting what he's deserved. He's owed a bit. El Shiva wants Evan Phillips back in Dodger blue. I'll have Mr. Blake Williams check in on that. Blake's got his finger to the pulse on Evan Phillips stuff, so I'll make sure to waterboard him over Evan Phillips news. Let's see. People don't want to lose Wrobleski. Yeah. I mean, stuff can be had. I can have conversations about a lot of these guys. Trading Dalton Rushing. People want to trade. You want to trade, or trading Dalton Rushing would disappoint you? I'm just peculiar. It's a peculiar state to be where if they don't end up finding someone in left field, then why isn't the conversation of Dalton Rushing out there if Ryan Ward's a possibility? I understand the left field experiment with Dalton Rushing wasn't pretty. But the bat, you got to get out at bats for him. You've got to find it. It's hard knowing that their number one prospect, who, one of the most recent number one position player prospects, is now just a backup catcher. That sucks. It does. No matter how you dice it, that sucks. He can't have as big of an impact. Yeah, TQT. He said Rushing should start to be traded. He's 25. It's a disappointing thing that if they go into the year with it. I'd love to know Blake's thoughts on that, honestly, man. Blake, if you're still in chat, ready to pounce, let me know your thoughts on that. It's a disappointing thing, with Dalton Rushing and how it is, that he's if he's possibly just a backup catcher now. Can Alex Call hit better? I don't think so. I think he is who he is. Just going to add bad quality. He'll go up there and in specific matchups, he can do good things, but he's not going to go out there and take over a game. Yeah, Blake says they should have traded Rushing over a year ago. Yeah. It's disappointing. That's a disappointing thing, just ongoing. I don't think, yeah. Yeah. Really, Craig? You said disappointing is letting Toronto outdo us in the free agent market. I mean, like they just had one of the most incredibly heartbreaking World Series losses in a really long time. So I'll be more than happy to let them go out there and pay for Dylan Cease like that. Get, Cody Ponce. I'm cool with it. Whatever. They want to go do that. I understand what they're doing. They're right there. Vladdy just has ascended into this stardom. Rightfully, he's a beast. They've got all their role players on the uptick here. Springer, if he's found a little bit of fountain of youth here at the back end of his career. They've got Trey Savage, young starters. Bieber, accepts that option, which was weird in itself. He wants to be in that thing. So I wouldn't be too disappointed at that. I understand what they're doing. Yeah, Final Boss Cease signing is not outdoing anyone. Yeah. That was a huge ass deal. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Dave, yeah, it's just December 5th. Way more moves to be made. Again, if you're listening if you're listening after the fact, just a great conversation here, breaking all things down. Rewind us. Just covering all these things about, my thoughts on the Dodgers being out on Kyle Tucker for the now, at least on Kyle Tucker, why I still think that they'll continue to be out on Edwin Díaz, barring a market collapse, of course, on that stuff. Then the Dodgers have the financial flexibility to just add on and not be afraid of, a threshold, and just Teoscar Hernandez chatter, stuff with that, making sense of that here. Let's see. All right. Let's see. Shiva says she'll miss Ben Rortvedt. Blake does too. I do as well. But we all saw the writing. He was here for a short time, not a long time. We talked about that when it was going on. Cool. All right, everybody. Good talk today. I appreciate you guys. We'll check in. I'll keep tabs with you on social media, barring anything breaking over the weekend. Yes, barring anything breaking over the weekend, we'll talk to you soon. I'll keep tabs on that. Same schedule. We're going Wednesday, Fridays, barring anything else. But we'll keep you posted there. My hope is that something exciting happens for the Dodgers there. No small moves, but the small moves are the ones that, go out here and help you win championships. So I'll accept anything. Everybody, please enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. Enjoy your weekend. My name is Scott Geirman. Thank you for tuning in to DodgerHeads Unplugged. I will see you all next week. And as always, go Dodgers.